So in the previous session, I have explained about SCD type 1, right? So can someone says what is SCD type 1? SCD type 1 is this.
If source, okay, there's in target table, if source data doesn't exist, we'll insert the data. If there's any modifications, then if there's any change, then we'll update the data. We'll do upset operation.
Yeah, so we'll have to update. Okay, so that means insert else update, sorry, update else insert. So always we are going to maintain the latest data in the target table. Okay, when we load the data from source to target, we will always maintain the latest data is called SCD type 1 implementation. Okay, now when we wanted to have the history of the transactions, when we wanted to have the history, when we wanted to maintain the history, then we will say it is a SCD type 2. Okay, so SCD type 2 meaning current plus historical data. So we're going to maintain current plus historical data. Okay, always we will be still keep having the old inserts or old records into the table, and if there are any changes, still we are going to insert them into the target table. Because this SCD type 2, basically SCD type 2 meaning current plus historical data. Okay, so when we are going to do this SCD type 2, since we wanted to maintain current data and the historical data, so there are three ways that we can do it. Okay, there are three ways that we can do it. One is flag method, version method, and date method. What are the three ways? Flag, date, version. So these are the three methods where we'll be having, where we are going to maintain SCD type 2 data. Okay, so flag meaning there will be a flag field. So there will be a flag field. So that is going to tell us Y or N. So latest record will be having Y, old record will be having N. So any table, if you see the target table structure, if you are going to see the flag value, okay, so there is a column called active flag. Usually we'll be having active flag field. So when we have an active flag field, so that means the table is a SCD type 2 table. Okay, by seeing the table structure, we need to identify and we need to understand what type of implementation that we will have to do for this particular table. Okay, so if you have any flag field, it's going to have YRN values and date method. Date method is basically which is going to have start date and end date values. So when the target table is having start date and end date fields, also then it is a SCD type 2 implementation. So version method 0 or 1. So always latest record will be having 1 and the old record will be having the value as 0. So this we will call it as version method. Okay. So like this, there are three methods that we have: flag method, version method, and date method. Okay. So by seeing the target table structure, we need to understand. We should not ask for each and everything to our team leads or the persons who given them requirements, business analyst. So by seeing the table structure itself, we should be able to identify. So what kind of implementation that we will have to do. Just for confirmation, we can tell them, but we need to be whatever we are going to tell. We need to justify that. So for what reason we are telling, we can tell it the target table structure. I can see that So that structure is having started init values. So that's why I'm considering it as SCD type 2 implementation, or it is having active flag. So when it is having active flag, so that means it is a SCD type 2 implementation, or it is having a version. So always the latest record having version will be 1 and the old will be having version 0. So by seeing that, I could able to understand that this is an SCD type 2 implementation. Okay, by seeing the target table, we should be able to understand. If at all any column we have the target table, then we should be able to we should do it in SCD type 2 implementation only.
So it means, Bhaskar, any one of these is there, right? In the target. Either flag or date or person, right?
See, in the flag method, usually the target table will be having active flag. Active flag field. There are certain situations where this active flag will be coming from source. So in that case, we should not do a C type 2 implementation. Okay. So we need to see how this field is being populated. If we are populating that field, if we have to populate the field, then it is an SCD type 2 implementation. If the active flag is coming from direct source itself, then it's not SCD type 2 implementation. It is either truncate load or SCD type 1 implementation. Okay. Any question here?
So,
Can you
Bhaskar,
repeat that, Bhaskar, please?
Sorry?
Can you repeat that, Bhaskar, that flag one?
Yeah, flag method. See, when we say flag, we will be having in the target table this field name called active flag. Okay. So sometimes this active flag will be coming from source column. Okay, because all these values that we will decide them. We will decide them whether what kind of value should be there for this particular flag. Okay, whether it is if it is a new insert by looking under the target table, if it is a new record, we will just insert the active flag as Y. If it is an existing record and if there is any change, we will be updating the active flag to N. Okay, so if we are modifying that active flag with our IACS code, then it is an SCD type 2 implementation. Sometimes if directly from source itself, if we are getting active flag, then it is not an SCD type 2 implementation. So we should be very much careful about there. And remaining
Okay.
two are even for
Sorry.
version also it's the same. Version also is the same. And start date and date also it's the same.
so Bhaskar, I have one question. Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, Bhaskar. My question is: suppose in the target table, if date is there, okay, the start date and end date I have seen. So
Okay.
is it necessary that version is also available? It means any one of three
No,
should be there, right?
anyone
Okay.
should be there. Sometimes active flag and date both should be there. Both will be there sometimes. I have seen them. Combination will be there, but it's a very rare situation or rare scenario because any one is enough. Okay, understood? Any questions?
No, Bhaskar. Bhaskar, if active flag is in source table, then it is not SCD type 2.
Yes.
If it's not exist, then it is. Then if we want to implement, then it is SCD type 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, fine. I'll just go to the implementation part. Okay, now let's say we have this name, number, address, 3 columns in the source. Okay, because why I'm taking only few columns is because I wanted the entire logic should be understand. Because if I take many columns, then you'll be little much confused while understanding the logics. So that's why I'm just taking very simple example of 2-3 columns. Okay, so let's say we have name, number, address. We have 3 fields. Now, as I mentioned, see, usually majority of the tables will be having date method. Very rare situation where flag or version method will be there. Okay, so let me explain about the date method. And flagger version method, I wanted you guys to try it because it's the same approach. Okay, I'll tell you how we have to, like if it is a flag method, how we have to implement, and if it is a version method, how we have to implement that. I'll tell you guys. But I wanted you guys to implement it. Date method, I'll explain. Okay, so when I say the date method, so there should be 3 mandatory columns: dimension key and start date, end date. Okay, so these are the fields will be there in the target table: start date, end date, dimension key. These are the source fields. Now, for start date, end date, if we wanted to derive, the mapping logic says only for these 3 columns, but the remaining columns that we will have to populate means it is an SCD type 2 implementation that we will have to do SCD type 2 implementation. What is SCD type 2? We are going to maintain current record and historical data. Okay, now so even here also there are 2 situations. Okay, the record which is coming from source does not exist in the target table. Then we will have to insert it as a new record. So here also there are only 2 points as like SCD type 1. So if record coming, then we should insert it as a new record with start date as is date and end date will be future end date as future date. Okay, because the record which is having the future dated value, the record which is having future dated value, that we will say record. Okay, because when we are maintaining the history, so which is the latest record and which is the old record, that we should identify. Okay, when we wanted to identify in date method, always the end date, whichever the record is having end date as future dated value, so that we will call it as active record. Now the record coming from source exists in the target table. So then also we should insert it as a new record with start date as system date and end date as future dated. Okay, the record coming from source already exists in the target table. Then also we should insert it as a new record with the start date as in system date, end date will be future dated, and we should update previously active record, previous active record, end date with system date. So previous active record. Here in case of update scenario, we have to do 2 things. One is, so that record also we should able to see my screen.
Yes, Bhaskar. We can able to see your screen.
You are able to see Excel, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. In case of update scenario, where we will have to do 2 activities. One is we have to insert it as a new record with the start date as system date, end date as future dated, and also we have to update the previously active record end date with system date. Okay, so that we will be able to identify. So this transaction was started on this date and ended on this date. So again, the new transaction is started on this date, and again it is ended on so and so date. Okay. So by seeing the start date and end date, we should be able to identify. So from which date to which date, which is active record. Let's say there is an employee. Okay. So employee joined in Bangalore location. Let's say today. Okay, 18 March. Okay. After 1 year, employee moved from Bangalore to Hyderabad location. Okay. Now, when the first time in the record is getting inserted into the target table, start date will be system date, end date will be some future dated value. Okay. Now, when there is a change in the existing record, so then also we are going to insert now for the first time when the record is coming, we should insert it as start date as sys date, that is 18 March, and end date will be some future date. That future date meaning 31 12 9999. Okay, some future dated value that we have to give. Some future dated value that we have to give. So that by saying that we should be able to understand. So this employee joined in this location, this date, and we don't know the end date. When he is going to move the next location, that we don't know. Let's say after 1 year, this employee moved from Bangalore to Hyderabad. When this employee moved from Bangalore to Hyderabad, what we should do? We should look up on the target table. We should check this record is exist or does not exist. Now the record is already exist. And if is there any change between source and target? Yes, there is a change in address. So when there is a change between source and target, then also we have to insert that as a new record, and start date will be 2026. So on this date, this transaction was happened. Okay, and end date we don't know. So when we are inserting any record, always start date will be system date, end date will be future dated. Now we have to update the previously active record end date. So this is the previously active record, so, right? So we need to identify the previously active record end date. Sorry, we need to identify the previously active record. For previously active record only, we have to update the end date. Let's say again this employee moved from Hyderabad to Chennai location. So when Hyderabad to Chennai location, after 1 year, again the employee moved. 3. Okay. Now when we are inserting a new record, so we have to insert it as a new record with started as system date. End date will be future dated. Okay. Now we have to update the previously active record end date only, because in this case, if you see there are two values, we should not update both of them. We should not update both of them with these values. We should not do like that. We just need to do only for previously active record. Okay, so with this we will get to know from which date to which date this particular transaction was active. From which date to which date this particular transaction was active. And now this is the currently active record. That means this employee is currently located in Chennai location. Okay, so this is how we are going to maintain complete history. So any question? Anyone having any question here? If you did not understand also, please do let me know.
Bhaskar, only one doubt here. So the
Yeah.
end date is there, right, in the second one. So we need to give the system date only, right?
Yes,
Actually,
we need to give the sys date. See, either we need to give sys date or we need to give sys date -1.
okay.
It depends upon the requirement. Either we need to do sysdate or we need to do sysdate -1. Okay. Any others? Anyone having any questions?
No, Bhaskar.
So the concept is everything is clear. Because how this start date, end dates, current record, previous record. See, majorly, even when you go for interview, also you should tell these 2 points only. So there is nothing extra that you should tell.
And Bhaskar, in source itself, they might give the start date, right? Sometimes start date or end data.
That's what I told, right? When we are populating start date and dates, that means it is an SCD type 2 implementation. In source itself, if you have flag or start date and dates, so then we should not consider the target load type as SCD type 2 implementation because we are directly getting the value from source itself.
This is only for the historical maintenance, right?
Yes. This is only for historical maintenance only.
Okay.
So that's what I told, right? So when we have the start date and date field in the target table, we should first cross check. So if these columns are coming from source or we are deriving it. If we are deriving it, then it is an SCD type 2 implementation where we are going to maintain the historical data. Okay. If we are not deriving it, if we are getting directly from source, so that means directly getting from source. So that means it is not an SCD type 2 implementation. It is just updates insert or truncate loads.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for today this is enough because now if I wanted to start with the mapping, I just need minimum half an hour to 40 minutes to explain.